I'll go ahead and kick us off. We are talking this morning about proactive versus reactive job searching. I know a lot of people are in the reactive mode right now, but let's talk a little bit this morning about how to become more proactive when given the option to become more proactive. So first, we'll start by introducing ourselves. Sharon, if you would like to go first.
Sure. Thanks, Ellen. Hi, I'm Sharon Bondurant. I own a company called The Finders, and we have 3 divisions. So we specialize in tech, HR, and finance. And I'm looking forward to the discussion on proactive versus reactive job searching. There's a lot we can do in this market right now.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Shawn Plowman, would you like to go next?
Would love to. Thanks, Alan. My name is Shawn Plowman with a company called Boost HR and Recruiting. We focus on recruiting for various sectors, but mainly HR and some tech and some sales and marketing. Also a little bit of finance and accounting. But we do that with a lot of small to mid-sized businesses here in the Phoenix area, also up in Salt Lake City. But looking forward to this discussion today. This is a great discussion today.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome topic for sure. And we'll end with Christian. So Nick, if you want to go next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Morrison, and it's really my stand that people find work that is productive and meaningful and really fulfilling for their lives. And what we've found is that really has a great impact on organizations. So organizations are really up to good work and doing something meaningful, and blessed to live that out through my company, Putiri.
Excellent. And then Christian Kaiser, who is the man behind this topic. You came up with a topic, so tell us a little bit about you and your firm, Christian, and then what resonated with you as far as this topic goes.
Love to, Alan. Thank you. My name is Christian Kaiser, founder of Career Evolutions, and we put people to work, be it recruiting, be it career advisory services, be it resume services, outplacement. We're here for you. And one of the things that really kind of brought my attention to the reactive versus the proactive kind of a mindset is that you really need to be doing both, but it's oftentimes very, very difficult. And so I'm very delighted we're speaking about this today, because it's one thing to just apply online whenever we see a job, but then what? And is that all? And the answer I will give you guys already is no. You need to do a lot more than just click on a button. So the proactive piece and the reactive piece is critical for most job searches.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate the topic. It's an awesome topic, good conversation for sure. And I know you guys are going to add a tremendous amount of value to this. I want to encourage people, please use the chat function or Q&A at the bottom. So make sure that you're asking questions in either one of those 2 places, and we're glad y'all are here. And I think we'll just kick it off with, the first question, just to all panelists. Anyone can chime in, but what do you see as being the biggest challenge with regards to people who are in full-on reactive mode, which many people find themselves in right now? I mean, what makes that so much harder today than even 3 months ago? If they were suddenly thrown into tossed into the throes of a job search and were becoming very reactive 3 months ago versus right now, what are the biggest hurdles for them?
Yeah, Alan, I'll go ahead and start, because I think, a lot of it has to do with mindset. When you are surprised possibly by now being in a job search when you didn't think that was going to happen maybe 2 or 3 months ago, it can be, extremely stressful and overwhelming, and you can almost feel panicked, like, okay, what do I do now? Everyone else is getting laid off. Where should I look? I don't have control over what's going on in my life. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. So I think knowing that you do have control, and there is a lot that you can do if you are faced, right now in this position of looking for a job when you didn't think you were going to have to be looking. So like Christian was talking about, even, when you're applying for a job, and we'll get more into this, there's a lot that you can do that you do have control over. So I think that's the number one thing that comes to mind for me is, whatever situation you're in, you do have control, and you can really find a great opportunity right now. There's still a lot of companies hiring. It's just, you have to, put that proactive spin on it.
for sure. What say you, Shawn Plowman, with regards to the challenges right now of being, full on reactive mode as opposed to a little bit more proactive?
I mean, I think the obvious, and stating the obvious here, but the difference between now and 3 months ago was the unemployment rate was, 3.9% or whatever it was. And now we're above 15%. So the obvious is there's a lot more people applying for the same job, which was already a difficulty prior, but even worse now. So you might apply for a job that 3 months ago, 25 people applied for, and now 100 people are applying for the same job. Obviously, the difficulty in that is on the other end of the spectrum. Looking at 100 resumes and looking at those in detail is probably not going to happen on the other end from the company side or from the recruiter side, for that matter. So that's the obvious, is just a lot more competition on those jobs that are advertised. I think one of the things I would say, and I don't know that I read somewhere once that about 70% of all jobs aren't even advertised. I don't know if that's really exactly accurate, but I'm sure it's pretty close to that number. And so today, I think as we work through this, we'll talk about how to expose yourselves to those jobs, those 70% of the jobs that aren't online on Indeed or on a company website or that kind of a thing. So that'll be the goal today.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, and Nick and Christian, on that topic, I mean, how do you advise the people that come to you with regards to 70% of the jobs not being advertised? Let's say it's even relatively close to that number. It's probably that or higher, I would say. How do you advise them? Because oftentimes those companies aren't even coming to us, so you would think a percentage of those may come to us as recruiters. Yeah, I don't want to post a job, but I do want to send it to you for you to post. But what is the play for candidates in this market, especially to identify those that aren't being posted?
Yeah, I'll hop in. Sorry if you don't mind, Christian, but I'd say maybe to that is it's your personal network that you've been building since the beginning of your time, right? And so what that does is I think that some measurement is like 10x. And so rather than going to like what's posted online or what you see out there, you can really get like 10x the opportunity by reaching out to your existing network. And so what it looks like, and I think one of the pitfalls that I see people that are in very reactionary mode is there's for a lack of better term, or lack of technical term, like desperation that happens. And so if we get reactionary, like we're sending our resumes to everybody, applying to every role online, like, hey, what do you have? I'll take anything, right? Let's do it. And I think that's a really humble place to be. But us as human beings, we still like finite items and resources, right? And so we don't necessarily want things that are really out there. So use your personal network, reach out to people personally, like not text messages or emails or sending a note like through LinkedIn, like pick up the phone and call somebody, or FaceTime if you can, get on video, like create that personal interaction and share with them what is ideal for you next. Not that that's the only thing that you have to do, but like share what you really want to do. Because what we don't want to do is get caught up in the cycle of being reactionary and just like landing jobs. We still want to land in a job and a role that's going to be long-term and growing. So still kind of like take your time and build through your personal network.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good points, Nick. Fantastic points. Your network is one that should always be part of any successful strategy. And the thing is, it's very easy to find, get into the mindset that if I see a job, I should apply for it. Well, before you pour a lot of energy and time into it, ask yourself also this other question: am I a good fit for the role? Just because you can do it doesn't mean that you're a good fit. And fortunately, like Nick was mentioning earlier, your network knows you, so you don't have to sell them really on you. They already know who you are and what you're good at. So it limits the time you need to spend on a pitch in terms of why you're a great candidate. And then to Shawn's point, there's a lot of people who are looking right now. So you really need to kind of look at it from this perspective, in my opinion, and that is applying online. If you're willing to accept advice, and my advice is, it's a default strategy. So you apply last online as a function of having exhausted speaking to your network, trying to get to the hiring manager, contacting the companies. So I'm not saying don't apply online, but the statistics show that when you interview people who got jobs, the statistics I've read is 2 to 3% got a job because they apply online. So what about the other 98, 97%? And to Nick's point, a lot of it will come through your network. A lot of it come through a targeted strategy. But you do need to do both. You do need to apply when everything else fails, of course.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Both you and Nick mentioned the networking aspect, and that was one thing that I wanted to throw out to the panel. Is I know in the years that I've been in recruiting, I can't even imagine the number of people that said, "I wish that I had been better networked." Mm-hmm. They find themselves, out there looking for a job, and they're like, "Man, is it too late?" And I always hearken back to the planting the tree, adage. There's two great times to plant a tree: 30 years ago and today. So if you didn't start your network, 30 years ago or however long ago you should have started it, then start it today. And that's okay. I mean, you wish you had started it 30 years ago, but if you didn't, today is a great day to start it. So what are some ways, because we all know networking is so pertinent to the proactive search, what are some things that people should be doing to be more proactive from a networking perspective? Like, where should they, and how should they approach it? I'm not looking for a job today, but I want to be proactive for when I am looking for a job. So what does that look like?
Well, I'll start there. I'm going to back up for just a second, Alan, because this will ring true, I believe, with the other panelists, just to kind of share what I see very often. So, for instance, I have a call today with somebody that referred over to me, and then another call tomorrow. So 2 different people who are looking to, one doesn't have a job and is looking, another one is looking to upgrade employment. Invariably, the question that I ask at the very beginning of my conversation is, tell me what you've done so far in your search. And when I ask that question, 90% of the time, the answer is, this morning I applied to 5 jobs online. Yesterday it was 14 jobs online. And a lot of times they'll give me a number. I've applied to over 100 jobs in the last week online. And the cycle typically is, they get up in the morning, they apply to the jobs, takes them about an hour or so, and then they're hoping for something back. Now, I don't want to make light of that because it's work and it's good work, but there are better ways to go about that work. And that's the goal of today's proactive versus reactive. So we'll get to that and talk about that in a little more detail, I think, as we go through this, Alan. But what I want to say is, tomorrow's a new day for anybody. Regardless of what's happened in the past, this is not meant as a panelist to say, it doesn't work. But there are better ways. If that has been your way of trying to find a job, there's better ways to do it. It might be a longer game, but it's a better game, and it'll lead to a more fulfilling job, which is really important. Number one and important. So, but heading to the networking question, that you asked about, I think I'm going to go really basic here. I wrote down, 4 things about proactive job searching. And the first thing I wrote down is just making a list of companies that you're interested in. Start there. That's where I would start, number one. And whether it's 25 to 50 companies, but those companies come from lists of friends that work at those companies that have said good things about those companies. Relatives that work at certain companies, you ask them about why they like working there, those kinds of things. But make a list of those companies and start to follow those companies. Follow them on LinkedIn. Do research on those companies. See what their values are. And you can start eliminating some of those companies based upon some of that information. You can go on to Glassdoor and others, of course. But you can do a lot of research. And I would say start on a proactive job search with companies that are of interest to you. And then, Alan, you can move towards who works at those companies. Who on my network works at those companies? And maybe nobody does, but somebody's a third connection through somebody else. And then you can work through that network. And I'll let some of the other panelists talk about that part of it. But
no, that's awesome, Shawn. Because your first question is, tell me what you've done so far in your job search. My first question every single time is, who do you want to go work for?
Yep.
And, you know, oftentimes people are like, I've never thought of it that way. You know, I want to go somewhere where I can make a difference is the standard answer that we've all heard. And that's great. I mean, I love that answer. That's a good answer, but you need to know where you want to go to make a difference. And it's of critical importance to have that short list, 5, 10, 15, you know, to 100 companies. And you can multiply it pretty easily with the tools that we've talked about in the past. But yeah, back to the networking question. Sharon, Christian, Nick, do you guys want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
you know, one
I'll
step before that. Oh, sorry, Nick. You jumped in there. One of the things too, I think you really have to identify what you're looking for, you know, in a company, and for yourself, what type of role you're really seeking. Because a lot of times companies can call a job description, you know, it'll be one title for one company and then it'll be a completely different title for another, but it's a similar role. So I think it's important to identify before reaching out to your network, to really identify, you know, this is my ideal position that I'm looking for, but here's some other things too that I'm open to or interested in as well, and have a little bit broader scope so that you can communicate that effectively when you are connecting with the people from your network. You want to have your messaging right so they can listen and pinpoint exactly, you know, what company or what person they might connect you to. So I think that's definitely, you know, the cart before the horse, to make sure you have that identified. And then when you are reaching out to your network, we talked about this a couple other times, you know, in our other seminars, our webinars, but LinkedIn is such a powerful tool. So I think reaching out to your network that way, as well as, you know, other interactions, other networking events, once we can start moving around and go to some face-to-face functions as well. But and I know we'll talk more about LinkedIn. It's kind of its own conversation in its own. So, so yeah, I'll let someone else speak on the panel.
Yeah, those are really good points. I love that. So you brought up something for me, Alan, that really hit. I think what I heard you say was that you hear a lot of people say, oh gosh, I wish I would have been networking, right? Or, oh, I should have been networking and I haven't. And I hear that all the time too. And what I encourage people to look at is, like, consider the possibility that you've always been networking since the very beginning of your time. So here, I just pulled up. So the definition of networking, just on Google, right, is the action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. And I think where people really get hung up is they compartmentalize the relationship with people. And so, like, you may only think of networking as people in your industry or people you've worked with, and that's not it at all. You've always been networking, right? And so when you met people at school or in university, you were networking there, right? When you go to your kid's soccer practice or baseball practice, you're networking there. Go to a PTA meeting, or you go play golf or play a pickup game. You go get your newspaper and you run into your neighbor, whatever it is, like, those are always networking. Your parents, right? You've been socially interacting with them for a long period of time. All of these people have got great professional connections and huge networks outside there. So, like, I love what Sharon mentioned, like, have a really good idea and concept of what you're looking for, and then interact with those people as well and just share that with them. And you might be really surprised on, like, what they come up with, suggestions for you, or maybe even contacts that you know. So you may very well have a much bigger network than you really think.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, we'll talk about how to use that network. And I use that term loosely, use the network, because I think a lot of people take offense to that, and I don't mean it that way, but I think that's where people also get hung up. You know, not only do they have a network, but they don't quite know how to tap into it, so to speak. Christian, do you have anything else to add on that topic before we?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Shawn and Sharon and Nick and you guys have really touched on a lot of important things. Just a little bit of a plugging here. So yeah, to add on to Shawn's part about having a target list, you know, these are the companies that I want to work for, organizations, and then looking for people within your network that works there. Just borrowing from Sharon's point, and that is, you need to have a plan. If you have a plan, this is what I'm good at, this is the kind of jobs that I want, this is where I want to work, not just industry and geographics, but also to Shawn's point, companies, Then once you have that, it's really about approaching those organizations. LinkedIn is a fantastic tool, certainly, but the network, there's a question you can ask yourself, and that is 0%, I haven't even started. I haven't even started speaking to my existing network. 100%, oh my gosh, if I call one more time, they're all gonna kill me. So as long as you're not hitting 100%, there's still opportunity to speak to and to court your network. And of course, the messaging is critical because you do need to change it up. But that's one of the questions that I ask oftentimes is when you look at your network, how many have you touched? And I use the 0 to 100% question to just kind of gauge. Most people are not even close to 100%. So there's always upside in speaking to your network.
Yeah.
Hey, Alan, can I just add maybe just a really quick practical tip maybe as we look to network, particularly on LinkedIn? So for instance, if you've identified Phoenix staff as a place you want to work, which who wouldn't want to work, right, at Phoenix, right? You know, simply on LinkedIn, you type in Phoenix staff in the search and the company page comes up. When that company page comes up, on your network, it'll list the number of employees that are part of your network that work at Phoenix staff. And here's where it gets interesting on the link, in my opinion, on the approach. How do you approach those people in your network? If you don't know them, but you're second degree with them, third degree with them, here's my advice. My advice is not to send them a message that says, I want to work at Phoenix staff. Can you help me? My advice would be send them a message saying, I'm looking for some advice. I've identified Phoenix staff as a wonderful company. Can you tell me a little bit more about the culture there? What you might like about this company? Question mark. And leave it at that. You're not asking, you're not sounding desperate that you're looking for a job. You're establishing a relationship with that person that can continue to grow and go from there. And eventually they might be able to help you, but it's not the first thing out of the gate that you're asking. Chances are, if that's what you're asking for out of the gate, you will not get a response most of the time. But if it's just for advice, a little bit of help, chances are they're going to respond to you.
Yeah. No, that's a solid point, Shawn. I'm glad you brought that up.
Shawn,
Sharon, were you going to add something?
Yeah, just a follow-up question to that. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Do you suggest that people send an in-mail to that person if they're not directly connected to them? Or should they send an invite with that message? What have you seen that's been the best option?
I think it can be done either way. I don't know that it really matters, to be honest with you. A lot of it depends on your account too, right? Do you have a premium account, LinkedIn account? So it's going to matter, you know, related to that. But again, I think we've established, this is week number 5 or 6 or whatever, you know, for us as banding together. And one of the things we've established is that people want to help people. And so when you approach it with, I'm looking for advice, generally speaking, we're going to give advice because we want to help people. And so I think that's just a really simple way to do it without turning somebody off. And you'll probably get a lot more responses that way rather than just going in for the kill that I want to work at that company.
Well, I think the way you phrase it also, Shawn, people like to talk about themselves. So, you know, give me some insight into your company, give me some insight into what you enjoy about it. The more yous you use versus I's, the better chance you have of getting an answer. You know, when you're posing it, you know, I'm interested in you versus can you be interested in me? You're gonna attract a whole lot more people.
That's true.
But yeah, awesome point. And then Nick, I wanted to address what you posted as well. You know, there's a lot of people at all levels in all industries, variety of capacities out there looking for work right now. So you pose a question of how this differs. You know, the executive search, being proactive versus reactive versus frontline people, proactive versus reactive, and then, you know, hospitality industry versus finance industry versus marketing industry. What is the opinion of this panel on how how the rules of the game change, given where you are in the pecking order or where you perceive yourself to be in the pecking order versus, you know, industry or background? How does this differ?
Well, there's certainly a couple of things we can highlight very quickly. And that is if you're an executive, director, VP, C-level, more than likely your job search is going to take a lot longer and your network is going to be critical. If you are, for instance, looking for a part-time role in the hospitality industry, counter to what I've said earlier, in that case, oftentimes these gig sites are fantastic. You sign up, it's kind of social media based in terms of ratings. You can pick up a gig the same day or the next day. So of course you need to kind of adjust depending on, and then certainly every industry and every profession has its unique pieces to keep in mind. But I thought I was kind of like start with some of the outliers there.
Right. What are your thoughts, Nick?
Well, I was hoping to hear from everybody else. That's why I raised the question.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool.
On it, but no, I'll snap it. I think maybe the differences between, we'll talk about it like executives versus people maybe that are just starting out, is that oftentimes I see executives are expected to already have a really big network, and they're sort of expected to have somebody else vouch for them. Right. But what's really great is that, people are maybe just starting out their careers or earlier on, when they do have a good network or come through a network or somebody else does vouch for them, it shows like that's really big. Right. And I really love that. So there really are no differences between kind of what point you're at in your career within the organization. It still comes down to the network. Right. So we're still getting through there, and the search is the same, and being proactive. But then also I was going to talk about maybe the functions. Right. And so, for example, in sales. So like salespeople who are in the department of sales are sort of expected to have a really great network, having other people vouch for them, and they're just sort of expected to know how to network effectively for a job. That's kind of what their job really is, right? That's out there, and so I think that's great, and maybe that's expected. But what I see from other folks, like maybe in accounting or finance or engineering, like in some other areas where it's not always expected, and then we do see that, right? Like they reach out with like great messages and we're networking really well and not just going through the digital channels. I'm always just so blown away and impressed. So I think honestly, maybe between the different functions, where you're at in the organization and industries, there's not big differences. We're also looking for that personal human connection and working around people that we really enjoy. But I would love to hear from everybody else on that also.
No, I 100% agree with what you just said. I think the level of connectedness you have to your network grows over time, obviously. So if you're a recent college graduate or if you're a line worker, your connectedness to that network is going to be less sticky or less, perceptive maybe to you or realized to you as it is, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years in. So I think that matters because it's kind of like going through, I forget the book, but there's been evidence written that you should call the list of friends. I mean, I think it was Ray Dalio's principles, actually. You should look at the list of people that you network and connect to, even your friends, and say, who brings me up versus who brings me down? And call that list, and go through that list. So from a networking perspective, it's the same thing. There are people that are in your network that not only don't serve you well, but will likely never serve you well. And it's okay to distance, yourself from those individuals. And I think as you're growing, if I had known that back when I first started in this industry, I probably would have saved myself a whole lot of time. Because there are people that you just have a conversation with early on in your career who you question, and you're like, that doesn't seem like solid advice. That's probably, a good thing for you to pay attention to when you're young in your career, because when you get older, that advice is probably still going to be the same. And it's probably still going to make your head cock a little bit and go, that seems like odd advice. So I would call that list. So whether you're executive, whether you're a line worker, I think the process is exactly the same. I just wish I knew younger that I should be doing it more frequently and more diligently. Because it matters as you get older. It matters as you navigate the waters of a career, for sure, or help others navigate the waters of a career.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Both of you kind of talked about the human connection, right? A little bit there. And in a day and age where, text right, and email and so forth is so prevalent, and for lots of good reasons. And there's lots of good in that. There truly is. But the reality is for your network, it takes work to get on the phone or to meet somebody in person. It takes work. And so because it takes work, a lot of people shy away from it. And because of that, their networks don't genuinely grow, to the point where I love Alan's phrase about serving, because I just think it's a wonderful phrase, where you can serve someone, and they can also serve you. And it can go both ways for sure. But that usually only happens when you've made a connection. And how do you make a connection if you're not having a conversation? Whether it's in person or not, you can't really have a connection via text or via email. It just doesn't happen. So my suggestion today would be, if you want to grow your network, get okay with being uncomfortable maybe, and making some calls that you typically said to yourself, I'm not going to make that phone call. Go ahead and make that phone call and get comfortable with it. It will help you in the future. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Shawn, that is such a good point. And Nick, you said something too, and they coincide. And that is, depending on someone's function and role, for example, a salesperson versus an accounting professional, I think sometimes the difference in the network is based on how extroverted they are, how social they are, how much they have been connecting with other people, and how much their role has required it. So, for example, someone in sales, they might have a bigger network because that is part of their day-to-day. They're out there, they're connecting with people for a number of reasons, versus an accounting person that might be, at their desk on their computer. And typically, people that are more extroverted are going to go after those sales positions, and people that are more introverted and maybe not as social and more private, are going to be in the accounting roles. So I think that sometimes with that, being uncomfortable is something that people should start, even if they're not looking for a job now. But I always say, practice being uncomfortable before you have to be uncomfortable. Because me personally, I'm more introverted than some people might think. So I have to constantly, even though my job is sales and, recruiting is definitely a social extroverted function. There's a lot of times where I have to push myself where I don't feel comfortable doing something, and I have to literally practice all the time, no matter how long I've been in business or how long I've been doing this. Being uncomfortable, it's something that I just have to do consistently. So I would really offer that advice to someone that feels uncomfortable. Like, picking up the phone is going to be easier for a salesperson than it might be for a computer programmer, So just remember that, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's a matter of doing it anyway. And if you're hesitant, if you're trying to determine, should I call this person or should I just text them? Do the harder thing and just pick up the phone and call them.
Yep. That's a great point. We've got a question from the folks here. What about connection requests stemming from profile views on LinkedIn for expanding your network? Yes or no? Or is that creepy? Is the question. So I'll turn that over to the panel. What do you guys think?
I will start. I'll say all of the above. It depends. It really does depend. If it's someone that is going to think it's odd that you sent them a request the moment they crept your page or checked you out, then of course don't trust your instincts. But at the same time, sometimes when someone is in fact reaching out to you, it's perfectly fine. I love the 300 characters we have in the connection request space. You can say a lot in those 300 characters. But you do need to tailor it. And perhaps at times it's okay to say, hey, I saw that you came across my profile on LinkedIn as a part of reaching out. And sometimes you shouldn't. So my final advice is just trust your instincts on this one. Typically, I don't send out requests when someone has checked me out, but I do. I certainly do. It just depends on the individual.
I think I actually connect more because I'm thinking, well, there has to be a reason that they did check out my profile. So maybe I can help them in some way. So I usually, and again, it's because, you know, in the recruiting world, that's our function, is to connect with people. So unless for some reason I get a bad feeling, I do look at their profile to see, okay, why might they be contacting me? And if it's something where I'm, you know, they're probably either looking for a position or maybe they need help finding someone, I usually can, you know, read between the lines and see where I might be able to be helpful. So, you know, I'll reach out and just see. And then, and then if it's something where I'm like, maybe I'm not getting a good feeling, then you can always block them.
Right. Yeah, I think there's we call it research. We don't call it being creepy. We call it research in our industry. So
just one little note, there are in fact fake profiles out there. So if the profile that you're reading doesn't make any sense,
right,
it's probably not a real person. So you know, certainly no need to reach out to them, no need to accept their invitation as well. Much less so on LinkedIn than Facebook, of course.
yeah.
right, yeah.
I would say the really odd thing comes in when you get what are they called, the recommendations or the, you know, the boosts in your profile from people that you really have no idea who they are, but they you know, they recommend you or highlight you for networking or for sales or whatever, and you've never talked to them. Those to me are strange, but that's a LinkedIn oddity. You know, as soon as you're connected to somebody, they can say great things about you, which is better than having them say not great things about you, I suppose. But always strange. One other thing that I wanted to bring up, and then I want to make sure that we get all the questions answered as well. But you know, so many people, and this is not an advertisement for recruiters, but so many people don't reply to recruiters. You know, and that is part of being proactive. So I would highly recommend that, you know, when you're employed, when things are going well, if you don't already have a connection to a recruiter or a couple of recruiters, that would be a great time to just kind of build a relationship and figure out if there are recruiters who are cut from the same cloth or cut from the cloth that you need them to be cut from in order to connect with them. Because when you're looking is not the most ideal time to suddenly go out and try to find a recruiter. It's, you know, it can be a very bad time. It's like not having a lender when you go buy a car. You know, it's usually not going to work out great. So, you know, try to connect with recruiters, connect with those who, again, are knowledgeable, who are well networked, who are high integrity, obviously, as all of the folks on this panel are. But make that a part of your proactive search, for sure, or proactive plan. What else did any of you want to cover with regards to this? We don't have any other questions in the Q&A area right now, but I know Christian, Sharon, Nick, and Shawn, if there are other things that you guys wanted to cover with proactive versus reactive or LinkedIn specifically.
One quick point, Alan, to what you just spoke to in terms of reaching out to recruiters. One of the common pushbacks that I get from my clients when I'm working with them, helping them with the job search early on is, Christian, I get so many requests from recruiters and they don't really know what I do, so I just ignore it. To which I say, no. See each as an opportunity to educate them. And it could be as simple as, hey, you know, thank you so much for reaching out. I really appreciate it. Sounds like a great opportunity for the right person. I'll see if I know someone. However, let me just share a little bit what it is I'm looking for. So in the future, when you come across something like that, please let me know and keep me in mind. So every time a recruiter is reaching out, it is an opportunity to really, you know, show them what it is you're looking for and seize that opportunity.
Yep. That's a great point. That's a great point.
Definitely. And I just wanted to add too, you know, a way that we can be proactive, or someone that is looking for another position can be proactive, is after you do apply, like what we were talking about, what Shawn was saying, there's so many people now that might have applied as well. But if you are proactive and you're one of the few that actually picks up the phone and finds out who that hiring manager is and calls them directly, that's, you know, another aspect of being super proactive that most people aren't doing. So, you know, you can apply, but then if you do that extra step, you're in the 1 to 2% that's actually, you know, doing the research and doing the work to get to that hiring manager. So if you haven't heard anything, because, you know, as recruiters, we hear that all the time, right? You know, I applied to this position, no one ever got back to me. Take it upon yourself and be proactive and make that, you know, connection,
Right.
because you have control over that. Leave a message, you know, and keep following up.
Yeah, and to your point, no one else does that,
No
or
one
very,
does
very
that.
few
Yeah.
people do that. So that's just another way. Like the first conversation that we had as a banding together group was how to differentiate yourself. Handwritten notes and phone calls are clear ways to differentiate yourself because very few other people are doing that.
Definitely.
Nick, did you have anything?
Yeah, I would just say, Alan, we've said this a few times in some of the other episodes we've done, but, you know, finding a job is hard work. And if we recognize that up front and recognize that it takes a number of hours every day to, quote, build your network, work through it, make phone calls, introduce. And if we look at it that way, that's a proactive approach. A proactive approach is I'm going to consistently work at this until I get the company that I want to work for. And that might mean 6-8 hours a day of literal work to do it. And oftentimes when I talk to people, like I said, typically I hear their strategy is to get up in the morning, work on something for an hour or so, and then wait to hear back, kind of a thing, right? So if we address it this way, like everything in life, the more we put into it, you know, the better the outcome will be. And so just acknowledging that, I think, and being okay with that and seizing it will bring about great results.
Yeah. We got another question in the Q&A function, and I encourage people just, you know, please go there and drop your questions in. But great question, and I actually hung up a call with this very topic right before we started the webinar this morning. How do I search for a job and build a network in a geographically different market? And it's an awesome question. I would say the very first thing, back to the points that all the panelists have made, know that market. Know the companies in that market. Create a short list of places that you want to go work in that market. If you say, I haven't really looked or I haven't really researched in the first few phone calls that you make to either recruiters or anyone else in that market, it doesn't show that you're terribly serious about it. In my personal opinion, you know, that may not be the opinion of everyone, but you should at least know some of the corporate headquarters that are there, some of the companies that are there, if they've got a great entrepreneurial network and that's where you want to go. What it is about that market makes it attractive. You know, if it's, you've got family there, friends there, whatever, you know, have a story as to, number one, why you want to go there. Be prepared to answer the question on relocation. You know, if relocation is expected, or if you want to just get there so badly that relocation is not going to be expected, but certainly accepted, if that's part of the package. And then, you know, finally, just being able to build the network within that market. It kind of starts with what, you know, Shawn mentioned earlier. What have you done so far? So, you know, in the very beginning, make that short list of companies, reach out through LinkedIn or any other network that you have, family, friends, colleagues, whatever, within that area. I wouldn't do the address switch. A lot of people say, and maybe there's panelists here that would recommend that, but I wouldn't adopt someone else's physical address, because that will not always, that will sometimes bite you. And it's not an easy question to have when somebody says, oh, you live in Glendale, and you say, no, I live in Topeka, Kansas. But I have a friend that lives in Glendale and I'm using their address. It usually doesn't end well. Those are my tips, but I'll turn it over to the panel on, again, how do you search for and build a network in a geographically different market?
I have a quick tip on that. The business journal is something, they have them in pretty much, I think, every city. It would be a great publication to pick up if you're planning to move to a certain city. You can get the hard copy of it, you know, the old school newspaper, or they have online editions. And if you become a member, I think it's like $89 a year, you get their annual book of lists. And I think you can call or go online and request it for that particular city, and it'll list out all the top employers. There's a lot of different categories. Every single industry that you might be interested in, it'll list the top, 25 companies, their email, their website, the top leadership. So that would be a good way if you're not quite sure even what companies are there. That might be a good place to start, to research, and find out where you would want to apply.
Yep.
Yeah, those are really great points. Yeah, I'll add to that. So, and maybe I'll preface this, the organizations that we work with, and typically the individuals we're working with are, they're doing purpose-driven work, right? And so what we're always trying to identify is like, great, who's doing the good work out there in the world? And so if you're targeting a different geographical region, what I recommend, we normally do three different things, right? Or what I recommend that people do. One is like find the organizations that people would be affiliated with if they're doing good work. So two really good ones are Conscious Capitalism and then B Labs, so certified B Corps. So figure out like the organizations that are involved with the two of those, and then the representatives from those companies that are hanging out at those events, reach out to them. So, hey, love the work that you're doing, love this, do that. And then another one we do is like figure out whatever causes that you really appreciate and that you want to back, and go figure out the nonprofits in those areas that are the biggest that are serving that. And then what you do, every single one of those has at least one, if not probably multiple fundraisers through the year. The largest majority of where the money comes from, these fundraisers, are from corporations. And so go find out who are all of the sponsors at those events, and then go and reach out to them. Hey, love the work that you just did at this event. Thank you so much. Love this cause. How was it? Right? How was the event? Or, hey, sucks that I'm out of town. I can't be at the event, but like, let me know how it was so I can get involved. And then also with those nonprofits, look through whoever the board of directors is. This is all public information, by the way. It's free, it's public, you can go and access it. And so figure out, like, normally at these nonprofits, there's a huge long list of board of directors, right? And the majority of these people are somewhere in corporate America leadership. They're doing something, and normally this to boost them. So like, those are all people there, and normally their contact information is listed publicly as well. So you can do some searches, and it's normally easier place for you to interact with them because it's something that they truly care about that's slightly away from the work that they do. And so we found that to be really effective going into new markets.
That's great. Great advice. So another question that we got, how about video in general, like responding with a video voicemail to stand out? There seems to be a trend to using BombBomb as an example. And I cannot speak to this, so I'm going to let you, whoever else on the panel has insight into this.
I don't know what is BombBomb. That's like something new. Do you guys know?
I think we're all going to download it as soon as we
yeah, I have to research that after.
We're all going to be sending each other video voicemails in about 10 minutes.
I do. I mean, I think on LinkedIn, there's even a tool. You can't access, I don't think, from your desktop, but if you go on your phone, if you want to message someone on LinkedIn, you can click that video button and do a quick video. And so I say, stand out, do something creative. I've done that for some business development, with managers that I wanted to connect with. So I would say it can't hurt, right? I mean, what's the worst thing? They're going to not connect with you. And then you can keep following up, right? And be persistent. So,
right.
Yeah, I'd say try it, see if it works,
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it could hurt. I'd love to hear from Shawn, Christian, and Nick. If you guys think it would, I don't really think that it could possibly be a harmful thing to do, though.
Like if someone did that for me, for one of our internal positions, I would definitely call them. Now, again, it depends on the role. If I'm looking for a sales type person that is creative and thinking outside the box, and they send me something that is professional and it's a video and it tells a little bit about them and why they want to work for me, I'm definitely calling them. And it's not creepy, and I'm calling them.
The non-creep factor comes
If they're creepy, it's blocked.
No, I think if it's well done, I think it helps. Absolutely.
Hopefully I don't get any weird videos.
I think we're safe.
You had to pop in. I don't know what BombBomb is.
Yeah,
so
I don't
I'm
know what that is.
definitely downloading it as we speak. But I think it can work. Speak to it on the other side for employers. It's been shown that job postings or job advertisements with videos attached get 34% more applicants. And so there's at least a higher volume that we're seeing. So I would assume that it'd be the same on the other side. You as an individual, if you've got a personal video, a professional video out there, and it's more so saying probably like who you are, what you believe in, and what you want to do, I would assume that you would probably get some more and better responses.
Yeah.
And then also, I still personally love the handwritten note. I don't know, like after I've met with somebody and they send me a handwritten card, like, I mean, they're in typically, because we don't see it a lot. So New School is great. You do video, you can do it really well. A lot of the best videos are still shot on cell phones today, and they can be distributed for free. So it's all free sharing. And don't forget about handwritten cards. That can really work too.
Yeah. So back to LinkedIn, and I guess probably to close it out, when we're talking about, you know, being more proactive, and we're talking about creating a list of companies, and we're talking about what have you done so far, those sorts of things. How do I reach out to someone if I'm a candidate looking for an opportunity? Let's say I want to go work at Banner Health in Phoenix, and Banner Health has always been like really high on my list of places that I want to go work, but I'm connected to 0 people. Who do I start by connecting to? Is it someone within the vertical in which I operate? Like if I'm in accounting or finance or HR or IT, do I start there? And what do I say, you know, to try to connect with that person? Or do I explore connecting with even more people than just one? So what does this recruiting panel have to say about those thoughts?
I'll give a low-cost approach. So the internal recruiters will always accept your invitation. They're in the same business as all recruiters, agency or corporate, doesn't matter. So if you think about how LinkedIn is built, it's built on the understanding we're 6 degrees from each other. If you don't have a good footprint inside Banner, which is a gigantic organization, obviously, one of the things you can do is you can start reaching out to the recruiters and just saying very briefly who you are, and then obviously they will accept. By them accepting, now you get closer to their connections, and you betcha they're connected with a lot of the people that work at LinkedIn. So what happens is in your searches, you go from LinkedIn member to an actual person. Once you have a person and a title, all you got to do is think about, is this the titles that I would be working for? So it goes back to, you know, managers are hired by directors, directors are hired by VPs, and so on. So think one level above. Once you have a name and a title, even in a large organization like Banner, you can then back your way into the specific department. And if need be, you can use what you know about Banner in this particular case by also adding the specific hospitals, because they will list their hospitals in the LinkedIn profiles. So you can kind of narrow it down that way. What you say is, of course, critical. But if you're looking to get in with no footprint, just connecting with recruiters will allow you to get very close very quickly.
Yeah, you know, Alan, just two thoughts about that. If you've identified possibly either who the hiring manager is or even somebody above the hiring manager, maybe at the director level, and that's ultimately who you want to get to, here's a couple of thoughts. As you look at their profile, maybe take a look at what groups they're in on LinkedIn, right? And join some of those groups. Maybe you can see some of their contributions to those groups. If you join the group, you can actually see if they're involved in that group, if they've put out some information in those groups, right? And now your name's in that group with them, and maybe you're contributing to that group, and they're seeing that you're contributing to that group, right? They might recognize that name. So that's one thought. The other thought that I have is I think we get stuck sometimes on how do we get introduced to that director from somebody below that person. My advice on that is to not ask that person to introduce us to the director, but to ask for advice from that person on the best way to get introduced. And those are two very different approaches. You're not asking that person to introduce you. You're asking that person for advice on the best way to get introduced. That will more likely give you some good feedback that you could use to move forward.
Yep. That's awesome advice. I love that. Nick or Sharon, do you guys have anything to add on that point?
Yeah, maybe I'll just add, I think the single best thing people can do for their job search is to form a board of advisors. And these are like 3 to 5 people that have all got large centers of influence. And these are not just people that are going to like pass your resume on, but these are people that are going to stick their necks out for you, really back you and push you forward, right? And so these are volunteer, unpaid positions, right? And you get to choose who they are. And so you pick 3 to 5 people who you think have got the largest centers of influence, who could help you out. And then you reach out to them. And what it looks like is like, hey, Sharon, Shawn, Alan, Christian, you know, I'm thinking about changing jobs. I want to do it right. I know you. I trust you. You do great work in the world. You know, like, would you just come along on this journey with me? And everybody's like, oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be with you. And like, okay, great. I want you to keep me confidential. So don't like spew my name out there. But as you see opportunities and you hear of things, right, let me know. And then I'll just reach out to you from time to time. And, you know, I would be, and you brought up Banner, Alan, earlier, but like, you know, gosh, if you've got 5 people in Phoenix and they've got large centers of influence, 1,000% chance we know people at Banner, right? There's like no way around it. And I would argue that for the vast majority of organizations, that's it. And so what you can do is like, you can get stealth mode. So you reach out, hey, Christian, you know me really well, man. What do you think about Banner? Do you think I would work in really well? Is it even something I should pursue? And you're like, yeah, absolutely, man, go for it. I'm like, cool. How do you think I ought to get in there? Who do you know there? Right? And you can reach out to everybody in your network and have that same conversation. So again, maybe just the leverage of having that board of advisors for those people.
Yeah, those are great points. I think just in general, if you like what we talked about, just building your network now, trying to connect with as many people on LinkedIn as possible, because if you do that, the chances of you being connected with someone at Banner is going to be greater. So even if, you know, you haven't had a big network, just starting today, trying to connect with a couple people a day, that'll really add up over the next, you know, couple months, years, because even if you're looking for a position now, chances are, you know, as you go throughout your career, you're going to be looking for a position again. So it's really a lifelong thing that we're building with our networks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, Nick, you had posed a question, can anyone cite the percentage of jobs that get filled by referral or network? And I have to believe it's more than 80%. So the big takeaway for me today, you're be proactive for sure is one of the big takeaways. But I think the other thing, as Shawn was mentioning, is don't only apply to the jobs you see posted. You know, if there's one thing about being proactive that I think we can all attest to, is that so many of the jobs that are out there are not posted. So find companies, find people within those companies, work that angle, and you'll probably have a much better chance of success at landing your next opportunity. Anyone else have closing or parting thoughts? All right. Well, I think we answered all the questions. We are grateful for everyone being here with us today. We hope it was helpful. We're going to post the video recording if you want to share it out with friends, and we will see you all again next week. Thanks for joining us.
Sounds good, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you.